Hi there from Central Virginia. Today I'm going to plant some parsnips. Now it's a little bit late for me to be planting my parsnips because they like to germinate in much cooler temperatures. It has gotten a little bit warm here at the very end of March. But I'm hoping these things will go ahead and germinate, have a good germination rate anyway. Parsnips are a little persnickety when it comes to germination. They like to be in moist soil, so you cannot let the soil dry out, and they need to have really good soil contact with the seed. And they like cooler temperatures, and they take a long time to germinate sometimes. Why do I bother with parsnips? Because they're one of those crops you can just plant and kind of forget about them. And then later, much later in the winter time, you can leave them in past the frost. They get better and better as the weather gets colder. You just pull them up in the wintertime and roast yourself some luscious parsnips. So they're really worth it. And you can kind of just forget about them when they're growing. They don't need you very much. They need to be weeded, but they don't need you very much. I'm planting two kinds of parsnips today, both of which I have done in the past. I'm doing the Halblange Weiss, and I am doing the Harris model parsnip as well. Unfortunately, parsnip seeds really have to be bought anew every single year. So I always end up with loads extra because I don't plant so many parsnips, but I do plant some. So the other thing that you can do is plant radishes in to mark the rows and also in between the rows so that your soil doesn't get dried out and the soil is not the soil is not left bare. And plus radishes are going to come up and you'll harvest them just as your parsnips are just kind of starting to get going in the year. All right, so normally I plant my parsnips somewhere along the periphery on the inside of my fence. I have no idea if things like groundhogs go for parsnips or not, but this year I decided I'm actually going to plant them on the outside of my garden fence, sort of on a border, northwest side. Parsnips do fine with a little bit of shade. They grow in the sun. They can take full sun, but they can also take some shade. And that side gets a little bit more shade from trees that come out in the summertime, and also from things that I have growing. I might grow some beans up the side of this place. Just going to plant a little patch of parsnips right here in this narrow border bed. Usually I put flowers or something like that in here. And in fact, I have some snapdragons coming up and some flowers coming up over there as well, and some sage. But I'm just going to go ahead and plant them here. So this soil has compost in it. It is a no-dig bed, and so but it hasn't been worked that much. So the soil is quite nice. All right, this had some wood chips just on top of it that had come in from the side here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a little light loosening of the soil. It doesn't need much. Pull the wood chips off. I don't really want that worked into the soil. Too carbonaceous. I'm not even going to put any fertilizer or anything like that in this. It doesn't need it. Parsnips really just like to grow. They don't need much. They do like a little bit of a looser soil though. But my first year I grew them in clay and they did fine. That was before my no-dig days. So I'm just digging down about, 2, 3, 4 inches into the soil, getting it nice and loose. That's a rock I feel in there. I do want to pull out rocks when I feel them because that will not be something that a parsnip wants to grow around. Actually, that's a piece of glass. Wow, how'd that get in there? Okay. Now I'm just going to smooth out the soil. Take a look at those little seeds. They're very pretty. They look like little pennies. Okay, these are the Harris model. And I am just going to make a little trench here. And I'm just going to put them pretty close together. I will thin them. And I'm just not sure about the germination rate in this heat. So I want to make sure I get really, actually I'm going to put that back a little bit. Really good germination. That's our Harris model. Now I'm going to put some radishes in. Radishes I'm just going to do every inch. I'll put a few different kinds of radishes in. These are purple plums, which I love. These are some cherry bells. I'm putting 2 in each seed, in each hole. Radishes will kind of grow and they'll just push away from each other, and you pick the one that's largest first, and then you pick the next largest later. Okay, so those for the cherry bells. Next, I'm going to put in a row and a oblonga. Seeds are exactly the same. They're very light. So I'm just doing a very thick sowing, since I'm not confident I'm worried about this heat coming in. And when they pop up, we're absolutely going to have to thin them for sure. Now notice how I have not buried my radishes yet. That's on purpose. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover up my parsnips, and then I have cut strips of cardboard box. When I've covered them up, I've wet this down. I'm then going to put this firmly on top of where the parsnips are planted. That's to make sure they maintain that really good soil contact and the soil doesn't dry out. So first things first, we're just going to go ahead and bury the radish, plant the parsnips. Get really nice soil contact. I'm going to pull that mulch back a little bit, so it doesn't go in there. Cover you up, cover you up, cover you up. Good soil contact. Okay. Now I'm going to take my hose very carefully, and I'm going to water those guys in. I'm going to give them a second water, just a little. I will check these to make sure that they don't ever dry out while we're waiting for the germination. Okay, let's put these cardboard slices down. It's not to keep the sun out, it's to keep the ground from drying out. Okay, let's do the other row, and then we'll pop those radishes in. Okay, now let's plant the radishes. Then we'll give everything another good water. And that is how you plant some parsnips. I will let you know how they're coming along. Hopefully we'll get some germination in spite of the heat here, as long as I keep them good and moist and keep that good soil contact going there. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.